Hello, my loves. I'm Ellie Frost. Thank you so much for being on my channel, where we are talking about the multi-dimensional approach to rapidly and radically healing and transforming during and after narcissistic abuse. And this video is called Spiritual Narcissists, What to Know, right? Because I think it's, first of all, the thing to know is that narcissists exist everywhere, and they are particularly drawn to positions of power and authority where they can exploit people, right? So a lot of people have the misconception that, narcissists, have it better because they know some of the narcissists are in positions of power. But look, a narcissist actually some narcissists try and get in positions of power so they can abuse more people, right? So it's not that you need to be a narcissist to have a powerful job or be in a position of authority. It's that certain narcissists are very attracted to certain positions, including religious and spiritual positions, right? Because they capitalize on people's trauma. So what to know about spiritual narcissist? A spiritual narcissist is going to use your faith against you in some kind of religious or spiritual capacity, right? So what it looks like is almost like a cult. Often when you come across a spiritual narcissist, you will feel seen for the first time, like in a love bombing stage with any other narcissist. But you will also often be tempted, like the hook is some kind of salvation, spiritual connection. You will feel some kind of epiphany often because, like, think about a love bomb stage in another situation with a narcissist. You suddenly feel seen, you feel loved. They're basically reflecting your ideal soulmate to you if it's a lover, or, they know how to love bomb you. They know how to reflect back to you what you need to feel, basically, and how to reflect back to you who they need to be to represent the illusion of them being the one that can make you feel that way by activating, like, what makes you feel loved, what makes you feel cherished. In a typical kind of romantic narcissist case, or a parent or a friend. But with a spiritual narcissist, what makes you feel, I don't know, connected to God in some way, right? Connected spiritually in some way, right? But like all narcissists, they're incredibly demonic and destructive. And actually what they're going to do is destroy your faith, right? All narcissism is a spiritual attack as well as an emotional, physical and energetic one. But in the case of a spiritual narcissist, what they're going to do is build you up spiritually in some way and tear down your belief systems, right? Your faith, your connection to God, higher power, source, whatever it is you believe in. So how will you know that something's off? Spiritual narcissists are often like cult leaders, right? They'll have rules. Like, I've seen certain people on YouTube, when people come into their close vicinity, they have rules about you cannot push the leader's boundaries. You can't have your own expression. You have to adhere to these rules. And often people are ostracized when they don't adopt the exact belief systems of that spiritual leader. That's a red flag, right? Because I believe most spiritual teachers and true religious leaders are going to actually promote your unique relationship with God and spirit, right? You finding that and yourself over everything else, not necessarily enforce that, you obey their rules. It's going to be much more focused on your unique relationship with your spiritual guidance, with God, with what you believe in, and finding a more expanded version of yourself, right? So if there's punishment for not obeying, if there's fear for not obeying, if you're not being brought into like more of you, but you're actually being almost like culted into a regiment, right? Where you're kind of scared of what it means to leave, it's a red flag. It's a red flag because fear-based spirituality is the opposite of love, right? So some people, there's a book on this, believe there's only two main forces in the universe, love and fear, right? And when spirituality is used to fear you, right, then it's not being used for the highest good, right? Because really religion, spirituality should be putting you into your heart, into a connection with your spiritual self, into connection with God, your creator, into connection with other people in the universe from a more loving place where you actually get to have faith in something bigger than yourself that gives you strength and resilience through life, gives you faith and hope, and also empowers you. You'll know if you're with a spiritual narcissist because there will be red flags, right? And they tend to do the same thing as all narcissists, where they'll have golden children and scapegoats. But when people get really ostracized and talked down about when they leave or don't obey, or if you're told like you'll never heal or you'll never be redeemed if you don't do exactly what they say, then they're playing God. So look at whether the leader is playing God or bringing you closer to God. Look at whether the leader is bringing you closer to yourself, your true expression, your truth, right? Your authentic power, or is making you afraid that if you don't follow their regimen and regime, something bad will happen to you. That's probably it. Because I believe, when you study scriptures, all scriptures actually share very similar wisdom, right? But sometimes they get distorted by spiritual teachers and religious leaders to kind of fear people into a different agenda, right? And the wisdom gets misinterpreted and exploited sometimes. So the confusion with any kind of spiritual narcissist is there's going to be, like with all narcissists, there's going to be an element of truth in what they teach. And you may have had some healing from them. I mean, there was one guy I was talking to my client about, that went to jail for, basically he was a big spiritual narcissist, but he was on Oprah, right? He got really famous because he did give some people, he helped facilitate certain awakenings, but they're still, so they have some spiritual gifts, some of them don't, I'm not saying that they don't, but they might be using it for the wrong thing. Same as if a psychic or an intuitive is actually using it to manipulate you rather than for your highest good. So it's all about what's in the highest intentions. What's the intention? Are they using it to exploit you, right, for their own personal gain or for their own following? Or is it kind of like a cult mentality? Or is it helping empower you to become more of you and to have your own relationship with God, Spirit, the universe, in a way that actually empowers you, makes you feel more expanded, makes you feel more loving and free, right? Spiritual narcissists tend to follow like a cult. There tends to be, like with all narcissists, strings attached, hooks, things that are sticky to get out of, right? It's not so much in a loving way of you're free to come and go. You shouldn't be guilted and shamed over your spiritual beliefs or religion, or feel like, this is your own personal journey, your own personal truth that you've got to come into, right? With the help of spiritual guidance, with the help of religion, with the help of scriptures, with the help of ancient wisdom, basically. To bring you into your own spiritual awareness and awakening and empowerment, right? So they also won't they're going to push your boundaries. They're going to capitalize on your pain and trauma, right? And when I say capitalize, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with being, obviously, it's right that people get paid to help you with your healing. We've got this weird thing in our world where it's the reason we haven't got more light workers and healers and really good people helping people is because we've got this very odd idea that people can't monetize their spiritual gifts. And sometimes, not always, but we have got this weird, there's a stigma sometimes that comes from an old paradigm. And I think capitalism not wanting people who can actually help and heal people that are outside of the system, doing unconventional things that actually accelerate healing and growth, right? There's a thing that the system doesn't actually want those people to thrive. So we've been kind of conditioned to believe that we shouldn't have to heal, we shouldn't have to invest in our own healing, all that kind of stuff. There's nothing more important than investing in yourself, your own healing, your own transformation, your own spiritual awakening. And the people that truly assist you in doing that should be paid, right? Because the system's failing, but we've got a system that actually is designed in a very capitalist model, and that doesn't really want alternative therapies and alternative methods often to be as important, right, and valued, when those things can radically heal people faster, often, right? So there's a lot going on in this paradigm, but for the people who are basically, I would say I know a spiritual narcissist because it's someone who is basically playing God, right? And it doesn't mean that there aren't exceptional healers. There are, and they give them a bad name. But if it's a cult mentality, it's a red flag. It's a red flag. If you're more fearful about not following their rules, getting it right, You're not allowed to set your own boundaries. You're not allowed your own expression. You're becoming morphed into what they tell you to be rather than more of who you are. It's the same red flags we experience everywhere, and they get in all positions of authority because they can exploit more people. And for some of them, they're on a real God complex and a power trip, right? This does not mean you can't trust religious leaders. This does not mean you can't trust healers and spiritualists. More people in the true healers and the true people who can actually help people on the planet, right? We've got to change this paradigm and actually understand that there are spiritual narcissists that work in the system just like any other narcissist that wants power and control over the masses. And there are beautiful healers and spiritual people who will help you come into your true essence and awakening in a beautiful way. And they absolutely should get paid, and they absolutely aren't narcissists for doing that. And the system doesn't always welcome those people, but tends to hero the kind of cult leaders that are actually exploiting people because they're doing the same thing as what's wrong with the overall system. Not all of our system is exploiting people, but a lot of it is, right? So the same red flags apply. The same red flags apply. You'd also see like they do smirk on people's trauma. They do seem to be enjoying people's pain. They do lack empathy. They will tell you that you're unconscious if you're going through pain or negative emotions. They really won't tolerate non-positive people, right? Which is not, the human condition isn't to be positive all the time. There'll be some real blanket rules, right? And a lack of compassion and understanding for people who are not following. And also think of all narcissists, right? They are trying to control your emotional response. So if you're not all enlightened and happy all the time, that probably is going to frustrate them, or they're just going to kind of exploit that in you to get more from you, whether you're paying them, whether you're becoming dependent on them. Look at that as well, right? Because in true spirituality and religion and true light work on the planet, right, I don't teach people to be dependent on me. I give them tools, right? I actually, my most common program one-on-one is 6 weeks. If I was thinking of it as in the old paradigm, then people would obviously tell me, don't do it over 6 weeks, string it out over a year, because then people will pay you for longer. I don't need to. I want to make things fast. I want people to break through. I want to give you everything I've got. I've put everything I've got into Sovereign. People have massive breakthroughs. Yeah. So like, you'll know that it's sticky. You'll know that you're becoming codependent on this person. You'll know that you're adopting belief systems that are being like, they're not quite your own, right? Whereas actually all spiritual development comes from your awakening. You're coming into your own truth. You're coming into your own power and your own spirituality, right? Not just adopting someone's belief systems because you're scared or you think it's the way or because you're being conditioned. It's a difference, right? And you will spot it the more you understand about narcissism. So it's pretty scary, and I think this is one of the most, I mean, they're all really destructive. I can't say actually, because all narcissistic abuse is destructive, but like when they come at you and exploit your religious beliefs and your spiritual beliefs, I mean, you can lose your hope in everything in the world. It gives you a complete spiritual crisis, basically. I've been there. I've worked with people who have been there, and it's kind of like you just, when you stop believing in God, or you stop believing in what was a higher power that you were connected to, and you stop believing it's real because you've been the victim of spiritual narcissism. It's a very, very like low place to be, right? Especially when you've gone through narcissistic abuse, and it's unfathomable. You know what I mean? It's like, gosh, one thing that people can't take from you is your spiritual connection, but when you've been exploited over that and that goes too, it can feel very hopeless. So understand that like they try and do that. Why? Because they want you dependent on them, like every narcissist, right? Why? Because they want to siphon your energy, and they're actually taking from you, whether it's finances, whether it's energy, whether it's life force. They get that you're a battery source to them. Your energy is a battery source to them, right? It powers them up. So, if a narcissist destroys your faith in a higher power, then they become your God. I've made other videos on that, why don't make the narcissist your God, that they all do have some kind of God complex, and they have, they do absolutely want you to worship them in some way. And the spiritual narcissist is the extreme version of that. So I hope that's helpful. Please post any comments and questions. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon.